Hello, and welcome to another episode of McMullen Stories, the Reddit story podcast so wholesome you'd bring it home to meet your parents. As always, this episode is brought to you by McMullen Brands on Etsy. Let's get to today's story.
Today, while visiting my dad for Christmas, I at 24F overheard my dad telling my 20M brother that he thinks I'm a huge loser and a drifter because I'm 24 and have no direction. He constantly compares me to my younger brother, who is currently in university and recently made good money during a gap year working a fishing job, and says he's the only one who has a real chance at being successful. For context, I moved out at 17 right after high school because of ongoing conflict at home with my mom and stepdad. My dad lives in another country, and I could not live with him due to not having citizenship. I wanted to stay an extra year in high school to improve my grades so I could apply to university, but they refused and said it was not an option, and pushed me into a community college program instead. I basically picked the first thing I thought of at the time, and ended up with a diploma in something I have no interest in and will likely never use, especially since it's basically useless without a master's degree. I've already tried to apply for many jobs in my field, but as I live in a megacity, it's incredibly competitive, and even entry-level jobs want master's degrees and years of employment experience in the field. I lived in campus housing at the time. When the pandemic hit, I moved back home like a lot of people did, but it didn't last long. I was kicked out again due to issues with my mom and stepdad, who has never liked me or my brother. Since then, at 19, I've lived on my own and been financially independent and worked full-time in pretty much any job you can think of, mostly low-paying service or retail jobs. I've also taken time off here and there to travel, which is important to me and something I pay for with my own money. Currently, I'm okay earning less money in exchange for more freedom and the ability to travel, rather than working a corporate job I wouldn't have the same flexibility in. I know this is something I can do forever, obviously, and I do want to find a career, but there's honestly nothing I'm passionate about or have interest in nor am good at. I've thought about going back to school to study something I actually care about or something practical, but I'm not sure what, and regardless, I cannot afford it. When I was in school, I qualified for grants and loans based off of my parents' income, but since then, where I live, they changed the financial aid threshold amount, and I would no longer qualify for financial aid if I were to go back to school now because of my stepdad's income. It is over the threshold, and my parents will not help with tuition. I also ran through my savings due to being unexpectedly laid off earlier this year. I have since found employment, thankfully. What really hurts is the hypocrisy. My dad dropped out of post-secondary. He was unemployed for about 15 years due to opioid addiction and depression, and living off with my mother until she finally left him. After this, he was able to live off his dad, who he still lives with, and social support because he lives in a Nordic country with a strong social safety net, and only got his first steady job in his mid-40s about 3 years ago, which is also low-paying. I believe, however, that a job is a job, yet somehow I'm being written off as a failure at 24. Still, hearing this from a parent hurts more than I expected. Even before today, he constantly finds a way to make little jabs at me about this any chance he gets. I know he's right about everything, and I'm actively trying to change my situation, but it feels impossible with nowhere to go and no support from anyone, plus constantly being put down. On top of this, I don't have many friends, as I find it really difficult to connect with people and have social anxiety. I am, however, in a long-term relationship for 4+ years. I feel so stuck in life. I honestly don't even know how to move forward, since I feel like I've just been in survival mode for as long as I can remember, having to support myself fully and keep the roof over my head. I also struggle with depression. I've seen doctors before and taken meds in the past, but nothing helps. I have seriously been contemplating ending it all, as I honestly don't see a future for myself or a way out.
Thanks for watching. Please like this video, subscribe for more stories, and leave a comment below.